Everything is just like your opinion, man.
Careful, man. There's a beverage here.
They're going to kill that poor woman, man.
That rug really tied the room together.
This is a very complicated case. A lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous.
Smokey, this isn't Nam. This is bowling. There are rules here.
All right, guys, strap on your bowling shoes and watch out for those nihilists as we take a nice, chill, and relaxing sip of what looks like a White Russian, but is actually film on the rocks. I was very proud of that intro.
I like it.
Love it, love it.
Welcome to Film on the Rocks, guys. I'm Levi, and I'm joined by a very, very special guest. His name is Brooker. How are you, Brooker?
You going to do this every time? All right. Hello. It's one of the hosts, Brooker.
I'm kidding. He is as frequent, even more frequent than I am. But we are actually joined by a very special guest, a good friend of Brooker's, and someone who suggested this episode. His name is Chris. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. You know, y'all are even lucky that I picked up the phone because I'm Shomer Shabbat, and I don't pod on Shabbos.
Love it.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a good episode. I know it. And today with this amazing cast and crew, we are doing the 1998 film by the Coen brothers, The Big Lebowski.
Whoa!
This movie is an absolute classic. I had never seen it before this moment, and good gravy if this is not just a wild ride of a movie. You guys have a little bit more of experience in this film, but as I did some research into this movie, I'm realizing how, like I said, cult classic, how much of a cult classic this movie actually is. Like, this movie has festivals, this movie has shops and stores in a bunch of different cities. This movie started a religion called dudism. I had no idea that was a thing. It's called dudism.
My cousin is a Dudist priest.
Wait, really?
Are you serious? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
He got ordained. He got ordained last summer.
Whoa.
That's the reason I put that quote, the quote of everything is just like your opinion, man. That's like their mantra. That's their motto of their faith. And this blew me. Oh my gosh, dude, I cannot believe you actually know someone who's a Dudist priest. That makes this so much better. Oh my gosh, can you tell me, do you know anything else about the faith?
I know that it's kind of like a mix between Taoism and just totally chill outism. And as a Dudist priest, you are ordained to you can like marry somebody. You can officiate a wedding in certain states.
That's amazing.
Incredible. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Clearly this movie has an effect on a lot of people. Like I said, directed by the Coen brothers. They did movies like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which I love. No Country for Old Men, which I love. I haven't seen
good.
True Grit, but that's another big famous one.
That one's good.
This movie on the Rotten Tomatoes has an 82%, but the audience score is a 94%. So I feel like somewhere in that range. Honestly, in my opinion, it feels right. When I finished, I said it was probably like a 93, 94, so that feels about right. I want to start with, honestly, okay, I'm going to save the best for last again for this one. I'm going to start with Brooker because I'm really excited to hear what Chris has to say about this movie, considering he suggested it. Brooker, what's your history, your relationship with this movie?
My relationship with this movie is Chris always telling me I need to see this. This and another guy I work with, he is a big fan of this movie as well. So this was my first time watching it for the podcast, and this movie was fantastic. It was I was just laughing the whole time. This movie is just great, and it was such a joy. Great suggestion by Chris.
Yeah, man, this is probably like one of my top 2 favorite movies of all time. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen it. This was a movie that we watched a lot in college that I remember my dad telling me to check out because he thought I would like it. And it was actually on the very first date I had with my fiance. We did a dinner and a movie at her apartment. We cooked dinner and we watched The Big Lebowski because I knew if I couldn't date a woman that didn't like The Big Lebowski. You know, it would be a major point.
So you watch the movie on the first date as like you know what, if she doesn't like it, I'll end it right now, and if she likes it, then we have a shot.
Yeah, it's a yardstick, but of course she loved it.
Fantastic.
Oh my gosh, Chris, I love that, dude. That's so funny. That oh my gosh, I just can't believe it.
We also give a thanks to Courtney.
Yes. I didn't know if Chris had any more to add to it.
Oh, sorry.
No,
go
go
ahead. No, Courtney's a star.
Yeah, shout out to Courtney too, who was the other person that suggested this video. She said that it's her favorite movie. It's super quotable, and she says it's a snapshot of just how ornery things can get, and is also that the Big Lebowski is like a super chill person. She calls it says it's a good representation of how life is just batshit crazy, but also mundane. I feel like that is exactly what this movie is that it is so mundane, but it's also batshit crazy. She gave us a few drinking rules, which we'll touch on here in a second, but I'm curious, Chris, you said it's one of your top 2 movies of all time. What is the other movie?
Inglourious Bastards.
Oh my gosh. Brooker, is that why you watched that the other day, didn't you?
Yes, but that was because of a failed experiment. I tried to do like a fun thing with our listeners and watch Max Keeble's Big Move and have like a live movie thread on our subreddit. Well, Disney Plus lied, and Max Keeble's Big Move is not on there, so I didn't want to make people rent it just to be in the live discussion thread. So we pulled a complete 180, went to Netflix, and Inglourious Bastards was there. And we're like, all right, we're just watching Inglourious Bastards tonight, people. So
I still haven't seen it. I need to see it, but I did find
that's a fantastic movie.
I watched Max Keeble's Big Move this morning. I found it on HBO, if you can believe it. It's on HBO,
which is now free. So thank you.
Yes.
HBO.
Let's go ahead and dive into those drinking rules, because I feel like there's just so much. This is one of those movies where they have the style of a lot of reoccurring themes and callback jokes and things like that. I'm gonna see, Chris, can you start this one off, because this might be a bad idea because I feel like you'll put Brooker and I to shame, but we'll just power hit right at the beginning.
Right. So this is a movie that I have drank a lot too.
That feels right.
It's kind of like, you could pick so many rules and it'd be very highly intoxicating. But I tried to go off of just some things that came to me while I was watching it the other day, for like the 50th time. So first one I had was anytime Donny asks a question.
Oh, man.
It's a good one.
Because they're all stupid.
Right.
Anytime someone is called a nihilist or nihilism is mentioned.
Okay. I like it.
And yeah, because like recurring theme you talked about. I also like anytime the dude corrects someone for calling him Lebowski.
Yep. That's good.
That happens a lot.
And anytime, yeah, it does. Of course, anytime he says, it really tied the room together.
Yep.
And then I want you to drink anytime Sam Elliott is being voiceover or he's like talking to the dude.
Oh, the stranger.
That'd be the narrator, the stranger, yeah.
I'm telling you, Sam Elliott is has one of those voices that's like what could have been what Morgan Freeman is, but he just kind of got pushed to the side a little bit because Morgan Freeman has such that iconic voice. I could hear Sam Elliott tell me literally anything. Like, read me the dictionary. I don't know.
Sam Elliott is like Morgan Freeman if he lived in the mountains his whole life.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. That's really good.
I like it. Good rules, man.
Those are solid.
Good rules, man.
Good rule, man. Brooker, what about you, my friend? What are your drinking rules?
All right. John Goodman was one of my favorite parts of this movie. And so a couple of my rules kind of center around him or his character, Walter. But my first rule was drink every time Walter yells at Donny for interrupting their conversation. That happens. I just cracked up every time. He's just like, "Shut the fuck up, Donny."
You're out of your element here.
Pay attention, Jesus. Oh gosh, I loved it. He was just so quick tempered. I love it. My second drinking rule is whenever Walter mentions Nom, get a drink.
Oh yeah.
Which is really funny because I didn't realize, Chris was telling me that you'll realize how much of your day-to-day life is like rooted or in reference to something from this movie. And me and some of my roommates in college, we would always like just kind of like jokingly talking about, oh yeah, back in Nam, like we had to do this, wherever, just as a joke.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know, it was just a big laugh every time that came up for me.
Yeah.
Whenever I loved Philip, my third drinking rule, I loved Philip Seymore Hoffman in this. He was branded. He was kind of like the butler or whatever for Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
He was really funny. So I had drink whenever he specifically calls like Jeff Bridges, his character, whenever he calls him dude, because I don't know why, but just hearing him say dude was really funny for me. And so drink whenever he says dude.
Was he in any other movies before this one? Because I mean, he became huge. Is this?
I'm sure he was.
I didn't look at. You know what? While you're doing your other drinking rules, I'll look at the IMDb.
All right, you do that. We'll be back for that Philip Seymore Hoffman update. My fourth drinking rule is whenever the dude unintentionally exposes his belly button. There's like
That's a good one.
there's like several times where he just like lays out and like his belly button just like becomes like at least halfway exposed or something. So I was just like, man, nothing fits him. Then my last drinking rule was just because I simply just love all the bowling scenes, just drink whenever they cut to them in the interior of the bowling alley.
Nice. I can't really find. He's in a couple roles before, or a few roles before 1998, but this was such a small role. I just expect Philip Seymore Hoffman to be the most prominent person in the situation. We had a lot of big stars in this one. Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, Julianne Moore, Steve Buscemi. So
Tara Reid was weird to
oh
see
my
in this,
gosh, yeah.
but
There's a lot of heavy hitters in this one. The Coen brothers can pull a lot of talent for sure. We had a couple overlaps for my drinking rules. I had anytime someone refers to the dude or this is okay. So there's I'll give you the expert rules, but I also have like the easy rules. So this will hurt you if you, but you know, tread lightly. The dude or man, anytime the dude calls himself or someone refers to him as the dude or he says man, that's kind of expert mode.
There's probably like 100 of those.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
movie,
Take a drink every time. Easier mode would be anytime.
take a drink of water.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Take
the easy mode would be anytime someone mentions the rug, in some capacity.
Oh, okay.
So that would be that's still pretty frequent, but that's medium level. Anytime the dude makes a White Russian, take a drin. That happens quite a few times. I also had Vietnam. Anytime Vietnam is mentioned or talked about. I had finish your drink on the scene where John Goodman shakes out Steve Buscemi's ashes and it gets all over him and the dude's Jeff Bridges just standing there and it gets all over his glasses and in his beard. He's like, oh, sorry, dude. And it's very casual. So that's
probably the funniest moment of the whole thing.
You can feel the movie. It's near the end, so it's fine. You can feel the movie just come to a grinding halt in that moment, and it just everybody kind of sits and you laugh in the moment. But finish however much drink you have left, finish it in that level. And
for Donny.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Just pour out for
Donny. And my last one, and there's a story behind it. So drink every time someone interrupts somebody else.
Okay.
It was so frustrating. I was so frustrated watching this movie. I could feel myself getting frustrated every time Donny would jump in halfway, and which is that is one of my favorite scenes. There's like, you know what John Lennon said? He goes, "I'm the walrus. I'm the walrus." I could not I felt so. Walter was so frustrated.
Is there like a waterfall for your rule during the whole I Am the Walrus?
You know what? I honestly probably should be. Just waterfall for just whenever John Lennon and I Am the Walrus starts to get mentioned. But Walter was really frustrating a lot of the times with his constant bringing everything back to himself, being like, listen, I want a cup of coffee. I fought in Vietnam. You know what I did in Vietnam? And he goes off. Like, that was a little bit much, but like the constant interruptions from Donny, which at the very end, it made me feel bad because the poor guy was just trying to stay included, and he kept like getting pushed to the side, and the poor guy passed away. But in the moment, I was just like, this is driving me insane. Just let the man finish talking and then say, hey, sorry, I wasn't in the conversation. I'm now just jumping in. What were you guys saying? So
sorry, I was throwing rocks. Like, what are y'all doing?
I was in my own head. So I had anytime someone interrupts somebody else, take a drink.
That's a good one.
I like that.
Those are pretty good. I like those drinking rules. So here's
what rules did Courtney have?
That's right. Thank you, Brooker. I almost scooted right on by that one.
Can't forget about Courtney. She and Chris exposed us to this magnificent movie.
I can't forget about Courtney. I really can't. She said, "I'm not sure your goal for the drinking game, but you could drink every time someone says dude, or every time something to do with bowling happens." So that, I mean,
there's a lot of good bowling stuff in this. So
yeah, this is.
Yeah, I like the close-up bowling ball shots are always.
Which
always
apparently.
I got dizzy during
which
one of them.
apparently those. Oh right, the one where you're in the hole and it's flipping over.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
Kat had to stop. Kat had to look away. She goes, "I'm going to throw up. Like, this is cool, but this is making me dizzy."
I had to look away for that one too. But apparently, a lot of those bowling shots were really, really difficult, according to the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
Like, it was a super duper difficult shot to make.
Yeah, they said they had to make like this remote control car with the camera on it and just like drive it down the lane.
Dang.
Oh,
Especially for 1998, that's some pretty hefty camera work, I gotta say.
I wonder if like today they would just use a drone, like just like have a drone flying in there, just kind of like hovering over it instead of like the remote control car. I don't know.
Like those things they have at like NFL stadiums. Like
yeah, or at least like a GoPro, like some sort of high-tech GoPro that you could just hang from the inside. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But it was that they were really, really good shots. It's kind of it was a good movie all around. Okay. This movie for me was one of those movies where throughout the whole time I couldn't decide if I loved this movie. Like, it feels like it's one of those movies. I think it's somewhere in the middle. Like I said at the beginning, it kind of settles in like the 82-94 movie, 94% movie. This movie feels like it's a really, really good movie, but there was no like I couldn't rest my head anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't a fast-paced film, but there was always something new. Does that make sense?
Things just
happened. They just kept happening, but it wasn't like a fast-paced movie. It just kept going and going and going, kind of like what Courtney was saying, where it was so mundane, but it was just so insane all at the same time.
Yeah, it's just kind of like we're just like watching this super kind of laid back bum of a guy. Just he's been thrown into all like these serious situations, but he doesn't really care about any of it. He just wants to get his rug,
right.
And so, and I was thinking, there's like 5 different threads or something, but none of them are connected besides the dude is somehow just like the nexus of all this, but like they're not connected to like the other threads. Like nobody's really in cahoots with anyone else in this.
Yeah, he's kind of like that fulcrum in the middle of the film. My question for y'all, and this I don't want this to sound too cheesy or strange, but like, what about this movie makes it a good movie? Like, what I honestly can't put my finger. Like, the acting is good. The scenes are fine. Like, what can you just put a tack in the exact spot of like what about this movie makes it so amazing?
I'm going to say the dialogue. I mean the dialogue and just the wacky situations they're in. Because if say like the dude, and he's trying to talk to Walter about like what are we going to do about rescuing this girl that's that they're keeping hostage, whatever, Bunny.
Right.
And it's just the dialogue about they're going to kill that poor woman, man. You know, if this was like not a comedy, this would be like a way more serious discussion. And it would have been something you've seen in like other dramatic things before, you know, any sort of action movie that deals with hostage situations. But since this is a comedy, and this is it's like the stakes are very high, but they're not treating it like they're high. I don't know. It's I don't know. I found that funny. What about you, Chris? Like, what kind of stuck out for you?
So I agree, the dialogue is definitely a big reason that this movie is what it is. But for me, I think it's just because it kind of flips the hero narrative completely on its head. Because if you think about the dude's mission in the film, from start, it is just to get a rug, you know? And if you think of it in terms of like when he goes and talks to the Big Lebowski and then he lies to Philip Seymore Hoffman's character about getting any rug in the house, he's done. Like, he has fulfilled his destiny as far as he's concerned. And then from the entire rest of the movie, shit just happens to him and he has nothing to do with it. You know, like they call him back to go do the handoff for the money. Maud brings him in to, you know, her studio and then makes a baby with him. And like, he's just completely oblivious to everything. And he's just literally, he's the hero, but he doesn't even know he's the hero, you know?
That's a good point.
That's a really good point.
I really like what Chris had to say. And he's just basically they kind of like say at the beginning who the dude is. He's just a tumbleweed, you know. And we start off by watching a tumbleweed tumble in the desert, and that's what this guy is. He's just tumbling through all these different storylines that he has nothing to do with. He doesn't want to be there, but the wind's just blowing him there and he has to deal with it.
Exactly.
Chris, this is obviously a movie that's really important to you and your fiance. Congratulations, by the way. That's amazing. Like, it's a hard step to get to, obviously. But I'd hate to make you speak on her behalf, but is there anything from her perspective that she is important to her that makes this such an important movie for her? Because this is a weird movie.
Oh yeah, it's super weird. I think it's just that bond we can share together, and we can talk about, like, make quotes with each other. And I think when we rewatched it this week, she basically was like, this movie makes no sense at all, but I still love it, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's just the sheer ridiculousness. Sorry, I think it's just the sheer ridiculousness of the entire thing, and that, you know, I love that she loves it and she loves that I love it.
It's sentimental. I like that. That's a great reason to love a movie.
And that's honestly how you said your fiance was feeling about this at the end of it. That, like, she kind of didn't like get it, but she just knows that she loves it. That's kind of how I felt like at the end of the movie. I spent probably like a half hour just thinking about what was the message of this movie and everything. We could talk about that when we get to that segment. But yeah, it's one of those movies where, like, it just, to me, it felt like it just ended, and we're like, wait, what? I felt like we didn't get too much resolution, but after doing some thinking. But yeah, it's a really funny, hilarious movie with a lot of wacky
that's
things
the same thing for me, Brooker. I'd love to get to the meaning behind it here after we do scenes, but like, I was the same way, where at the end I was like, what is the meaning behind this? And I sat with it for like 24 hours, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks and said, oh shoot, I know exactly what the meaning of this movie is. Whether or not at least for me, at least, I'm very excited to talk about the meaning. That's like the biggest part of this for me. I'm real excited. I want to jump into scenes, because there's, again, the whole spectrum of this movie. This movie to me felt like one giant scene. It just kind of kept flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing. But there is obviously different parts to this movie. Let's start with Brooker this time. Brooker, do you have a favorite few scenes in this movie?
Oh yeah, I definitely do. I just want to say I love how this movie starts. You know, besides us following the tumbleweed, which is, you know, just a direct metaphor for who the dude is, but I just love that we open up with him in the grocery store wearing a robe, and I think he's wearing sunglasses too, buying some half and half, and he writes a check for 69 cents to buy some half and half. Fantastic. I was just like, all right, this movie has me right
especially
here.
since you have this narration that is just rambly, where it's like, what was I talking about again? I can't remember. Anyway, the dude's awesome. We love the dude.
It's great. I was just thinking, man, I've been in those situations where I'm in the grocery store in my pajamas, just looking like a bum, trying to get something. I was like, been there.
There you go. There's a question for you before you give any other scenes. What is, if you were in the grocery store at whatever time in the morning or at night, and you're in your pajamas, what are you probably getting?
Beer.
Oh, it's probably, yeah.
You know,
it's probably beer
or limes.
Limes, that's fair. You know what's funny? I related a lot
Frozen
to him
pizza.
getting half and half, because if I am in the grocery store in my PJs really late at night or really early in the morning, it's either for probably like bagels or like creamer or something like that. Like I wake up and I'm just like, oh gosh,
funny.
I want some bagels. Oh, I want to make some kind of creamer. Oh, gotta get some creamer. It's something just so minuscule, something that you really don't need in the day, but it's just the dude needed his half and half. His was for his White Russian, obviously, but
that's something that I could see the dude doing, that waking up going, man, I just need some bagels, man.
I mean, probably that's probably something that he said before. I would.
It'd really tie the breakfast together, man.
Oh, Chris, that's so good. Oh my gosh, Chris, do you have a favorite scene?
I kind of have a tie of my 3 favorite scenes.
3 favorites.
3. Sorry.
Do
so
it.
we can
Lay 'em on
do a
us.
round robin, and I can do one.
No,
but-
man, do it.
So I love the Gutter Balls music video, where the dude has been drugged by Jackie Treehorn, the pornographer, so that they can ransack his house. And in this dreamscape, he is doing like a porno music video with Maud, and it's set to Kenny Rogers singing, "I just checked in to see what condition your condition was in." And it's so ridiculous. He checks out his bowling shoes from Saddam Hussein.
Right?
It's just,
Saddam. Yeah.
or as Walter would call him, that camel fucker over in Iraq.
Yeah, right. Right.
No, that whole thing is just fantastic. And then I love the scene where they interrogate Larry for stealing the dude's car, and they're trying to get the briefcase back from him.
Yeah.
Because they still, at this point, they still think it has $1 million.
Is this what you want, Larry? Is this what you want?
You see what happens?
Yes.
He's just,
And he comes out. He's like,
just-
my car. He's like, oh gosh. Oh.
he's like, "I'll-
See what happens when you fuck a man in the ass, Larry.
you see what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass?
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so raucous. And then we alluded to it, but
I love John Goodman. God, he has such
Oh my
good raw
John Goodman's one of the
anger.
most
I just
underrated
love it.
actors in Hollywood, for sure.
absolutely. And then the aforementioned scene where Donnie's ashes are being spread over the Pacific, and Walter, in the middle of the eulogy, starts ranting about Vietnam and all the men that died from Quai Son to Hill 362.
I know, he always seems to transfer into this whole dearly beloved, we're here to honor Donnie, as we also honor the troops. It's like, okay.
He gave his life, much like many men gave their lives.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Gosh, John Goodman. Does he have an Oscar yet? I don't think he does. I'm sure
one.
he's been nominated,
No, I
but
don't
yeah,
think
that
so.
man needs an award or something. I agree with you, Chris. I love the ashes scene and the what I have in my notes as the Larry scene. Those 2 scenes are up there. But probably my favorite part of this movie is the fact that the dude is just so comfortable in his own skin. You know what I mean? Like, he will go home and he's not like, oh my gosh, I just was at this amazing mansion and I was just at this, they offering me all this money. Oh, I'm living in squalor. I have nothing. He just living his life, like walks home. The scene where he's taking a bath and he's got all these candles lit and he's just enjoying his home, or he's drinking or he's like laying on his rug and he's just listening to his little Walkman.
It's Bob Dylan,
I
baby.
love it. I love that. I thought that Jeff Bridges did an amazing job at just kind of showing what it looks like to just be content in whatever moment you happen to be living in. I love that.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely. I think that's one of the main draws of the film, is that just being comfortable in who you are.
Yeah. It was just so good. Jeff Bridges definitely pulled that together. Also, obviously the I Am the Walrus scene, as I already mentioned, just was cackling. That was on my notes page, because usually when I'm watching the movies, I got a notepad in front of me and I'll just jot something down. I think on the top of my original notes, it just says "I am the walrus" underlined 3 times. Just Steve Buscemi, just "I am the walrus." I'm the walrus.
Shut the fuck up, Donny. Yeah, it's.
I think a bonus best scene of the movie would be John Turturro as the Jesus.
Gosh. Which I love.
It's 3 minutes. It's amazing. It's this entire arc in the film over like 3 minutes, where we find out that he was like an ex-con for pedophilia, and he just
he exposed himself to an 8-year-old.
Which I don't know if, like, I'm sure you guys recognize that his theme song is, I think it was, I'm pretty Spanish, but it was Hotel California by the Eagles, which the dude
covered by the Gypsy Kings.
Yeah, which the dude despises, apparently. Just does not like the Eagles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's funny because he's obviously, I think like they're bowling alley adversary,
you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Also, while we're still talking about scenes, I just want to bring up, I love whenever the dude goes to, the first couple times that the dude goes to Mr. Lebowski or the Big Lebowski's house, and he's just dealing with Philip Seymore Hoffman's character, and there's when they're first introduced, and Hoffman's just trying to like show him all these awards and everything, and the dude just keeps interrupting him. You can just see Hoffman is just like dying a little bit on the inside because he can't finish a sentence. It's so great. And then we see they get outside and they're talking to Bunny, Tara Reid, and she's just like trying to offer him fellatio for $1,000, and but $100 for a Brandon to watch. He just goes magnificent. Like,
so he won't mind. What does he do? Oh, he's a nihilist. Sounds exhausting.
That's a good quote. That's a really good quote.
That's a great one.
What would you guys say? So I also love the constant reoccurrence of Sam Elliott, either his voice or him being on screen. Do you guys? I kind of took Sam Elliott to be the dude's conscience or his subconscious or something like that. I figured that he was not really there and that the dude was kind of talking to his inner spirit. Does he, if that's not who he's supposed to be, who is Sam Elliott supposed to represent? Is it like the audience, and maybe the audience, that some people who appreciate the dude and what he does? I don't know.
Dude, actually, that's a really good question. I guess I assumed he was kind of the audience, like because he's the only one that breaks the fourth wall, and he's talking directly to the camera.
But if he is the dude's subconscious, then he's metaphysical, and so there's kind of the idea of a wall doesn't really exist. So breaking the fourth wall on a metaphysical plane seems more appropriate. So I don't know. I just his kind of this nature of relaxed, tranquil, good with anything, kind of losing his train of thought, has this consistency. It's not White Russians, it's sarsaparilla or whatever he keeps ordering. And
he does, and when he talks to the dude, he's talking both directly to the dude and to the audience in a weird way. like where he's trying to cheer the dude up, and he says, sometimes you eat the bar and sometimes the bar eats you, and the dude's just like, well,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, but there's no level of like, okay, whatever, man, like, catch you later. He's kind of like nods and is like, cool, all right, have a good one, and just moves on. It feels, I don't know, he's looking at Sam Elliott like there's something right about him. I don't know if the dude necessarily knows that that's his, if it is his subconscious, if he knows that it's his subconscious, but there's this level of like, they're different, but they still kind of agree with each other. Like, he's this kind of old Western cowboy, this kind of, but he's very, I don't know. Just thought that Sam Elliott's character is the biggest mystery to me.
Yeah, it is. It's a real thinker. I was talking to Kat with it after the movie, and I was like, is he supposed to be like God or like a guardian angel over him, or is he?
He could be his guardian angel.
Like, I don't know. Like, I kind of thought, like kind of what you said, that maybe he's just his conscience, and this is just him. Right now, we're at the end of the movie. He solved the mystery with the Big Lebowski and the hostage and everything, and they've spread Donnie's ashes and everything. And so I wonder if this was him just kind of like internalizing his whole adventure. I don't know.
That's, you know what? Yeah, okay. You say that, and it kind of is connecting in my head a little bit. Like actually, you know what? Before we dive into that, does anybody have any other scenes? Because I'm about to go on a crazy tangent right now.
Take a tangent.
Yeah, go for it.
So you say Sam Elliott, like, maybe is he God? Is he an angel? This movie, the more I sit with it, is an incredibly biblical movie. There is a
Dudism,
definitely. Obviously, a lot of religion in there, but the whole statement of the dude abides is actually from, not the exact quote, the dude abides. It actually comes from it's a reference to scripture. It's a reference to, I had to look it up because unfortunately I don't have the book of Ecclesiastes memorized. But it comes from Ecclesiastes 1:4, depending on your translation. It's one generation passes away and another generation comes, but the earth abides forever. The book of Ecclesiastes, in a very, very, very tight nutshell, is essentially like life is meaningless, people die, people are born, and no matter what happens, the earth keeps turning, and the earth, yeah, that's essentially what that verse means, is the earth abides. And it's essentially kind of it's Ecclesiastes is one of the wisdom literatures, and I'm oversimplifying it. It's one of the wisdom literatures kind of tied together with Proverbs and Job, and it's sandwiched in between Proverbs being like, here's all the things that you should do to have a healthy life, and Job and Ecclesiastes being like, hey, even if you do good stuff, shit still happens to you. Even if you do everything right, people still try to screw you over because the world's coming to eat you, and people die, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then Job is kind of the sandwich of this wisdom literature where you have this guy who's like wealthy and like worships the Lord, and then Satan takes everything from him, and then he's like, God, why did you do this? And then God says, because I'm God and you have no idea how this world works. But then God just gives it all back to Job for some reason. There's no, oh, he did something good and so he gets it all back. So Ecclesiastes is kind of this book that is like, we don't know, like, God is God and he just kind of does, and I don't know how any of this works. Because people keep dying even though they are good people. So, all that to say, Sam Elliott is the dude's idea of God, of this, because Sam Elliott is the one that says the dude abides. That's the guy who says it.
No, the dude.
I thought Sam Elliott said that.
Well, I think Elliott repeats it.
He's walking away. Yeah, he does. But when he's walking away after that last pep talk at the end of the movie, he was like, "Well." Oh,
there you go. Okay. After he was talking with Sam Elliott, that's still, yeah. Okay.
Right. I think your larger point still stands, because Sam Elliott's character is also a little
Mm-hmm.
bit omniscient. He knows that Maud got pregnant. He knows just kind of what the dude is thinking at certain times.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that he could be kind of his idea of how God works is just like, hey man, it's all good. Like, or at least maybe the kind of his rendition of who he hopes God is this chill, hey man, keep doing what you're doing. I'll see you around. Love getting to interact with your life here and there or whatever. And he kind of smiles and like you say, Chris, where the dude says the dude abides, and then Sam Elliott looks at the camera and is kind of smirks and is like, yeah, the dude abides. Kind of like this, yeah, there you go. But yeah, I think that's kind of the whole meaning of this movie is that not that life is necessarily meaningless, but rather that life is unexpected. There is no 2 + 2 = 4 in life. There isn't if you're always nice to people, then good will come back to you. Or if you're mean to people, then bad things will happen. Like the Big Lebowski is kind of a piece of shit, and he's this super duper wealthy guy, even though he's kind of riding off of the wealth of his late wife and his daughter. But he's still like very wealthy, and the dude is really, when you boil it down, is really this sweetheart. And he keeps getting just thrust into these situations where it's all his fault, and all he wants to do is just get his rug, you know? So I think that the whole point of it is that, hey, life keeps happening and we keep living.
I think that theme carries with the nihilists as well, because, you know, they go through this whole thing intimidating, and, you know, with the dirt bikes picking up the dead drop and it's mailing the tow. They have been the intimidators the entire time, and at the climax of the film, when they realize that there was never any money, and they know that they don't have Bunny, and they were like, well, we were supposed to get $1 million. This isn't fair. We're like, yeah, you're the nihilist. You're supposed to realize this. Yeah. It's not fair. And that's how it goes. It's life, baby. It ain't fair.
That's good, Chris. Good catch on that. I didn't even include the nihilist. That's so good. And the nihilists in the end are talking about fairness, which is the most oxymoronical thing. Like, if you are a nihilist, you recognize that the world is trying to eat you and doesn't take prisoners, and that's just how it is. So we're gonna get drunk and pass out in a pool, because what's the point?
Right. I like those two like interpretations of it. I was kind of thinking that maybe not so much like a message, but just like at the end of the movie, we're at least supposed to be satisfied with that. We've seen growth in both like the dude and in Walter, and that through this, while this wasn't like Walter's story, he was definitely thrown into it with the dude in certain scenarios. And at the end of it, after Donnie's funeral, the dude kind of blows up on him a little bit, and he kind of is able to, he definitely still has some like a chip on his shoulder about Nam, but he's not, I think he kind of has some sort of resolution on it, and he realizes he doesn't need to bring everything in his life back to that. And so I think he kind of has, I won't say closure, but some sort of relief to where he doesn't have to bring it up so much, and he can still just live his life without, like, he live his life as Walter, not as Walter the veteran. And so I feel like he gets a little bit of closure on that. And also the dude, as we see, he's just kind of like this bum, but at least we see he finally completed something. He solved this whole hostage case with the Big Lebowski. Like, he's the one that he connected all the dots, so he actually completed something. Well, I don't think he got a rug back. Is that right? He still didn't get a rug, but he at least, you know, on an intellectual sense, was able to complete this puzzle. And so I that's kind of like what I got out of this, is that, like, okay, we see these two people that did grow a little bit at the end of the movie.
Even if he did fall into completing the puzzle, like, very ass backwards.
Yes. And he still confronted him about it, but then John Goodman went the wrong way and making a handicapped person try to stand.
I know a fake.
I
horrible
really
one.
thought that was again in classic Coen Brothers fashion. Whenever John Goodman picks him up, he's like, "Man, I know a cripple when I see one. He ain't. No, come here, stand up." And it's actually, the poor guy actually has a messed up spine or whatever it was. Remind me, and again, I'm totally blanking. How does the movie end again? Does it just end with, it ends with Sam Elliott talking into the camera, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're at the bowling alley bar, and Sam's talking to the dude, and then the dude walks back to go bowling again.
Yeah, it ends with
And
the
that's
dude
pretty much
abides
it.
kind of section. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I sure hope he makes it to that bowling championship.
Right,
Right,
yeah. Which is, yeah, there you go. I don't know why I was surprised at that ending. Like, I was expecting some sort of resolution, because at least as far as I'm aware, I think I've only seen 2 other Coen Brothers movies in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou and No Country for Old Men, which, again, if you're listening and you haven't seen those 2 movies, spoiler alert, just like fast forward 10 seconds or something real fast. Both of those movies end with like a cliffhanger. Someone walks off into the distance, or there is no resolution on both of them. There's something left hanging. And so I don't know why I was surprised at this, because that feels very Coen Brothers to kind of be, hey, you know what? We're not going to give you anything to hang your hat on. You're just going to have to blow in the wind because the dude abides.
You have to chew this over.
So I watched a interview with the Coen brothers, and they were talking about their ideas and when they wanted to make the movie earlier, before they made Fargo, but they were kind of worried because a couple of the other movies like Barton Fink before that didn't perform so well. So they were saying like, all right, we need to get our feet back under us in terms of like Hollywood respectability and all that. And so they made Fargo first. And they were like, well, if Fargo worked, and that was a really weird movie, let's just dive in with this Big Lebowski idea. And, they just ran with it. And, they said themselves, well, the plot doesn't really make sense. It doesn't have a good ending. But in this sense, it doesn't matter, because it's all a part of the larger theme of the movie of, everything we've already been over about it doesn't matter, kind of the nihilist kind of viewpoint, or, it just, the whole point of the movie is that the dude abides. It's about a theme, not necessarily a plot.
Oh, I like that.
I think that makes perfect
like that.
sense. That kind of, yeah, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, okay, Coen Brothers, I see what you're trying to do there. I see what you're doing. A couple other, this is, the thing that kept getting to me during the movie is the fact that the dude doesn't have a job. And yet he's able to, I mean, he's living kind of in a, not the nicest apartment, but he still owns an apartment, and apparently he's still paying rent. And he's late. He's late. But the landlord is apparently really good friends with him enough to invite him to his dance recital. But he's like,
I think that's just the thing. The dude's able to just ride on his dude charm, and he's able to be like, "Oh yeah, don't worry, we'll get it to you eventually." And I bet you he does some like odd jobs or something for Walter.
Yeah.
or something like that.
What's funny is in the original draft of the script, the dude's income was apparently the heir to the Rubik's Cube fortune. I don't know.
What?
I don't
Why
know.
did they leave
Maybe
that out?
I
That's
don't know.
amazing.
Maybe that's just something for people to dig up. I'm not sure, but he said all of the stuff that whenever he had helped this famous artist conceive Julianne Moore's character. But what did he say? He was a roadie for Metallica, and all of this stuff that he apparently had this like incredible past.
He was a part of the Seattle 7.
He was part of the Seattle 7, which apparently the guy that the dude is based off of was also part of the Seattle 7. I think he was also an anti-war person. Jeff Dowd is the name that I found, who helped the Coen brothers distribute their very first film, Blood Simple, back in 1984.
And another character that's based off of real people is Walter. He's kind of a composite of a couple different people. But the main guy that inspired it, and his name is escaping me, so if someone wants to look this up while I'm babbling, he also, in some part, inspired the story, because this guy came over to the Coens' house and he was telling this totally mundane story about this rug that he found at a thrift store, and it just really tied the room together. And he just rambled on and on for hours about this stupid rug, and they were like, okay, well, this is kind of a funny plot point to write into the film.
Let's see. It was, according to what I've found, Peter Exline. Does that sound familiar? He was a consultant for the film. He was a screenwriting consultant and a film professor at USC. Good friend of the Coens, and he had a rug in his living room, and he said it tied the room together. And he also apparently found a child's homework in his car after it had been stolen, which is how they got that homework scene.
Yes.
Which by the way, help me. Okay, I'm still lost on this part. The dude's car was stolen. He finds Larry's homework, and then they go to Larry's house thinking that he has the money. But did Larry actually have the money? He didn't have the money. Because there was never any money because it was the phone books and so he just, why didn't he say anything? Just a dumb kid that just didn't want to say.
Just a stonewalling him.
Just for the heck of it. He's like, I found this thing of suitcase full of phone books or whatever. That is so funny.
Yeah, I think he just admit nothing, deny everything.
And don't feel dumb, because I had to ask Chris if he could explain that to me again. But yeah, he just stole the car as like a joyride, and he literally had no connection to anyone else.
I
just like
love it. I had to ask Rachel the same thing. I was like, wait, like the dude literally goes over it at the end of the film, and I was just like, wait, Rachel, say that one more time. And she's like, well, Chris, Rachel's my wife, by the way.
Okay.
But like to go over and be like, wait, say that one more time. It's like, okay, here's how it went. Yeah, like, okay, they didn't have the money. It was all a big trick. The dude is onto him. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Last fun fact I have that I dug up was apparently Jeff Bridges has a band that he started, and they are called the Abiders, named after the phrase "the dude abides."
Oh, love that.
That's something, again, that's probably my favorite fun fact, where I just happened to be sifting through all these articles, and I was like, oh my gosh, no way. But that feels very Jeff Bridges and the dude doing something. Be like, hey,
it's definitely a Bob Dylan cover band.
Oh my gosh, I hope so.
Oh, it has to be.
Good gracious. I wonder if Jeff Bridges can make a Bob Dylan impression. I wonder if that's even possible. I don't know if Jeff Bridges can get this high. That's my Bob Dylan for you.
That's good. I saw a fun fact while I was researching this too, and it was in that same interview with the Coens. They were talking about how Bridges didn't really need any direction in terms of like how to act for the dude. They would basically be like, he would say, "Do you think the dude would have burned one on the way here?" They would say, "Yeah, I think so." So he'd rub his eyes to make it look like he'd smoked. And then, and then the total opposite of that was Sam Elliott, where he was going up to the Coens. He was like, "Guys, I don't even know why I'm in this movie. Like, what am I doing here?" And they didn't have an answer for him. They're just like, "Look, we like your voice.
Listen, you're Sam Elliott. You've got a voice. Listen, you're just gonna be his guardian angel. It's no big deal."
Exactly.
I love that.
Like, guys,
dude,
we don't know
also apparently the dude's clothing was mostly Jeff Bridges' clothing. Like the jellies, his shoes were Jeff Bridges' shoes. He just essentially wore his own wardrobe for this
That's
movie.
Amazing.
He clearly was. I can't imagine anybody playing this role better than Jeff Bridges, honestly. Like, he just is he's the right size, he's the right kind of feel and look. Like, his voice has the right texture for it. I don't know.
You know, sometimes there's just the right man for his time.
There you go. There you go. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Any other favorite scenes? I know we kind of jumped around. Any other comments on the meaning of this movie?
No, not for me.
Those are good. Yo, that was good, y'all.
That was good.
As always, we have to have the conversation on whether or not the Big Lebowski needs or should have, even if it doesn't need one. Obviously, this movie is wonderful and I know that this movie can stand on its own because it does. But should or could this movie have a sequel? And if so, what would it look like?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I think this movie's fine on its own, and I can't see how you could do a sequel. Now, I wouldn't mind seeing these characters, Jeff Lebowski and Walter, like together in like other weird situations, but I just can't see there being another a sequel. I don't know what you guys think.
I agree. I don't think it needs a sequel. It's so perfect as a standalone film, and it has its own ethos around it and everything. I did find out that there is a spinoff that came out this year, 2020.
What?
I think it was like an indie film, but it was written and directed by John Turturro.
Oh, wow.
And it was called The Jesus Rolls.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Oh, I think I remember
I'll
seeing
be honest,
that on Reddit.
I watched the trailer and it didn't look great, but I'll probably eventually watch it.
That's so funny.
That's fantastic.
I know that that Jeff Bridges reprised his role as the dude for a Stella Artois commercial where
Oh, I remember that. I think that was a Super Bowl
where
commercial.
he comes in and they say White Rush. He goes, "Oh, give me a Stella Artois," or whatever he said. It was something just so the dude, and he sat down, and then it was Sarah Jessica Parker played. Oh gosh, what did she play? Was it Erin Brockovich? Is that the movie that she's in, or is that? I forget. But she played some sort of role in some movie, and there's a drink that she usually drinks. Man, there's probably a listener out there that's like, this is so obvious. Whatever movie I'm talking about, guys, tweet us, email us, whatever. Like, let me know what this movie is, because I can't for the life of me figure it out.
Yeah, as soon as I hit the record button, my brain spills out of my ears. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's so relaxing, man. I'm telling you, if there's anything that makes me feel more like the dude than anything else, it's doing this pod, because I just kind of am like, man, like, that's just like your opinion, man. I just kind of melt into my chair. It's the best.
Levi, what do you say about sequels?
I'm going to say yes, but only like half of a yes. I want...
a yeah.
Do what? Say that again, Brooker?
A yeah.
Yeah, that's right. A yeah. I don't know why that made me laugh so much. That's funny. I want a mini-sode.
Okay.
Like, just do like a little 15, 20, you know what, 30, like a
student film.
Yeah, like a student film, like a 30-minute max little short film of the conclusion of the bowling tournament.
Oh, yes.
I want to...
That would clean up Sundance.
That would.
If the Coens
Oh my
did
gosh,
that.
100%. I 1,000% agree. If they got Jeff Bridges, and if they got Jeff Bridges actually to play the dude again, and they could get John Goodman back to actually play, and maybe you have like you have like
The Folgers can.
Yes, the Folgers can, and maybe you have like Steve Buscemi as like a see-through angel up in the right-hand corner.
Force Ghost Steve Buscemi.
Force Ghost Steve Buscemi with his arm around Force Ghost Nate up in the top right corner. I mean, I'd be into it. I agree, Chris. I think that it could win a lot of short film awards if the Coen brothers said, you know what? We got a free 2 weeks. Let's put together a quick, 15-minute film. Shoot, I could make it a 7-minute film, Coen Brothers. Just take 2 or 3 weeks, 7-minute quick film, one or two quick shots.
Just make it a
YouTube video. Why not? You've got the technology. You don't need to do like a weird running the camera work running alongside. We've got the tech. We've got 2020 tech. We don't need to use that 1998 camera work. We could make this happen. I would love that.
I'm with you.
I really, really, really do think we can make this happen. Any other thoughts on this movie? There's obviously a lot to it. Any other thoughts before we start to simmer down?
This movie is just fantastic. I'm definitely going to be rewatching this, and I loved just one last thing that I forgot to mention that I loved was when Walter threw his bowling ball at the chest of one of the nihilists and just like crushed his rib cage. Amazing, way to go, Walter.
I think that was Flea. I think that was
Shut
actually
up!
Flea
No
from the Red Hot
way.
Chili Peppers. I think he's the one that took the shot.
Oh, that's cool.
He took the shot.
He took the shot. Yeah, before we close it down, I'm curious, how often have y'all been bowling in your life? Are you guys relatively decent bowlers?
Like once or twice a year.
Same.
I'll be lucky if I hit 100.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
same.
What do you think your top score that you've ever gotten is?
Ever. Like 120, and I probably did the Jesus dance after I hit my
There you
last
go.
I think
What about you,
probably the
Brooker?
top I did was like maybe like 115, like once. But yeah, I'm there just to like have like a pitcher of beer and throw a ball down
Oh, sure.
down the hallway. That's all I'm there to
With you,
do.
100%.
Any turkeys? Y'all get any turkeys?
Never even got to
My grandfather used to bowl a lot. My grandfather on my mom's side, and when we were little, and he lived in North Dakota most of my life. Moved down to Florida recently when he retired, but he would take us bowling if he would be in town, which would be not a lot, but every once in a while. And he would teach us some trades. The best game I've ever bowled was, oh gosh, I got like a 180 something one time.
Jesus.
I've never broken 200. I have gotten quite a few turkeys before. I got one. What do they call it? A donkey 4 in a row. I've gotten a donkey a couple times, once or twice.
I've never even seen that
Yeah,
happen.
I've got a couple buddies who are really, really good at bowling. I've only been bowling with them once, and there's a friend of mine who averages about what I do, but a little bit more. He'll do like 190, 200. I got another buddy who almost rolled a perfect game, and he went like up like 270, 280 something was like his best ever. I know, it's insane. I don't know how you have the skill. I mean, you have to practice. I don't have the wrists for it, man. I got weak wrists. I don't
have the wrist for it.
I couldn't do it, man. I can't. You've got
This is a sport that people smoke cigarettes do while they're playing. I just love
yeah,
that.
but their wrists.
It is barely a sport. I mean, yeah, like you said, smoking, drinking.
Oh
it's-
man, I bet
almost
you we
doesn't
got one
qualify.
person listening that is gonna hunt you down, Chris, and be like, "It is a sport. You know how many medals I've won for bowling? I'm gonna kill you."
Like, I got a Gatorade sponsorship.
Gatorade
I mean, there's some people who make mad money bowling. It cracks me up. You've seen these
I
people.
got a Virginia Slim sponsorship. I always got to smoke those.
Oh my gosh.
It's very feminine.
Oh my gosh. Any final thoughts?
This movie's awesome. Everyone should see it.
Chris, what about you, man?
The dude abides.
The
The
dude,
dude abides.
Dude
the
abides.
dude abides. Chris, dude, thank you so much for joining us, man. You added so much to this. I love having a guest on, and you clearly have a very personal relationship with this movie, so you were obviously the most qualified to join us on this pod. Thank you so much, dude.
All right, dude. Thank you so much.
And
Thank you all so much for having me. It's been a great one. This is my first time being on a podcast. I had a
dude,
ton
you're a
of fun to be
natural.
on.
I figured that you would do this every single weekend. Also,
Well, hey, man.
oh my
You need
god.
an opening.
Also, a special shout out to Courtney. Courtney, you're the best. She didn't even. We like to give people shout outs for like Instagram pages or projects they're doing, and she was like, nope, I just wanted to get on y'all's pod and hear y'all give me a shout out. Like she's wonderful. So thank you, Courtney, for continuing to give us a listen, and this is your shout out. Courtney, you're amazing. If this is your first time listening to us, we really appreciate the download. We would love it if you shared us with your friends and your family, people that you know, your bowling buddies, anyone who's willing to give us a listen. You can find us on essentially anywhere you can get podcasts: Google Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher. Just give us Spotify. Give us a listen. We are still in the middle of our suggestions month, and next week we are going to be looking at Max Keeble's big move.
Fuck yeah, let's
And
go.
I am weirdly excited to do that one. But y'all, the dude, like Chris said, the dude abides. Keep being awesome.
Bye.
See you guys next week.